Good. I hope you had a good week. Do you have any questions to start? Okay, I mean, there's only two of you here. So I've already told the young man who was here and asked before. So I apologize if it feels like the grading's going slow. Some things take a long time to grade. I'm grading the grammar homework right now. And those are taking 20 to 30 minutes apiece to grade. So that's like 8 or 12 hours total. And then if you think about that, I have 5 classes. So that's, 40 to 60 hours grading one assignment per class. So it can get to be pretty slow. And this probably does not apply to either of you all. But, one thing that helps is people read the instructions and follow those. Because if people don't, then there's already automatically things wrong to start with. And as I was saying, the more things that are wrong, the longer it takes to grade. So following directions seems to be an issue, especially for some of the assignments with this class when it asks for complete sentences. It means complete sentences because this is a writing class. We're not really interested in seeing if you can list things or make bullet points or things like that. This is about writing, and maybe in the future we'll have to change those directions. Anyway, so that's that. And this week you have due on Sunday your claim letter. If you have any questions about that, you can ask now or you can email me, whatever you like. And does anyone want to look at their claim letter during class today? I know last week nobody in this class wanted to. The other class, a bunch of people did. So I guess different strokes for different folks. Okay, well with that in mind, so you have that due this week. Next week you'll work on your career presentation, which we went over last week. You'll find an ad and do a PowerPoint presentation. And so then the following week, you will have a TED Talk assignment. Okay. Now I think this is more fun if you have to do a TED Talk. And that's actually what I had people do last semester, but it was kind of a, for some people it was sort of a mess because we were all virtual. So this meant trying to record things, and it was a little bit much, I think, to coordinate virtually. So this semester I decided to do the recommended thing, but now of course we're back live, and it would have been something that we could have done in class. But you know what? Live and learn, right? Or you know what? Maybe keep this in mind as I describe the assignment. If you want to do a TED Talk, think about if you think that might be what you would rather do than this. In my opinion, this is a fair amount of work. So in the assignment, the way it is, the idea is to find 10 TED Talks. That would be 10. That's a lot, I think. That would be related to your field. That you would watch these 10 TED Talks and then write a paragraph about each. And each paragraph should have the title of the TED Talk, the name of the person presenting, where it happened, and then sort of, summarize the main topic, write about a favorite part of it, favorite quote it says, and then give reasons that people should view this video. And then all of that would be submitted to a discussion board. Yes? What are TED Talks? So TED stands for Technology, Education, and Design. And it started out, I can't remember exactly when, 10 or 15 years ago as sort of just like a conference. So people interested in technology, education, and design. And so they had a conference, and people got up and gave these talks. And it turned out to be super popular. So I think there was less than 100 people there for that first one. Now, not right now, because of the global pandemic, but before that, they would have them all over the world, several times a year. And each one may have a slightly different focus. And they would be anything, I've seen them on, and so there's a website now. You can watch these videos. They record them and they put them online. There's an app. And I have watched videos on anything from, there's an Indian dude, I think his name is Pico Iver. And so he's Indian, but while India was kind of a British colony, but he moved to Japan when he was in his 20s. And so his talk was about how, you may notice this when you go on vacation, how everything is kind of new and wonderful. You know, if you're on vacation or if you've never been somewhere before, and you notice all of this stuff, just even if you're on vacation and you're walking to the train. But in your own life, you know, where you live, you don't tend to notice these things. Although there are things to notice, we just are in a routine and don't have that mindset. I've watched one on procrastination. That was really great. I've watched them on this young woman who grew up in a very conservative church. And so like at 5 years old, she was out protesting against homosexuality, and about how Twitter helped expose her to other points of views. Although, so the basic premise of her TED Talk is, how can we hear each other? Like, how can you have a productive conversation even if you sort of disagree fundamentally with the person that you're talking to? And we'll watch one too. So they can be, although it's technology, education, and design, those things can be on far-ranging sort of things. It can be on, I'll watch the great one about, although the woman was extremely boring, about DNA. And you have shoelaces, you know, the end of shoelaces with the plastic things, I think those are called aglets. So if you wear your shoes a long time, and this is probably mostly for younger people than we are, and you're rough on your shoes, those things will wear out. And then the shoelaces start to fray, and then God forbid that it comes out of the holes because it's hard to get back through, right? Well, DNA, that's what aging is. That, you know, DNA is perfectly fine, but as it ages, it will fray on the ends. And so then it's not able to make these perfect copies. And, for instance, like cancer can result. But we find that sort of sleep is a key to keeping this from happening. Like I said, that woman was extremely boring, but her information was fascinating. I watched one from, there's a Republican mayor, and he talked about how did a Republican mayor get elected in a city that's like 75% Democrat. And he talked about because his campaign was about sort of responsibility, that we should be able to solve problems by you have to measure, you have to decide what you want to change, you have to decide how it needs to be changed, and you have to decide you know, what measure you're going to use to determine that. And so anyway, his last name I think was Barnum. So there's a ton of different, I mean, tons and tons and tons of topics. It's crazy on, you know, environmentally friendly house building, you know, anything you can imagine. There's actually I didn't know this till I watched this TED Talk. I guess the University of Georgia has a pretty decent meteorology program. But if you wanted to be a weather person, that would be a good place to go to college. And so one of their professors was talking about the difference between weather and climate. So he talks about, you know, and he says in the thing, I live in Georgia. So every time it snows in Georgia, I get 50 people calling me, Professor, how do you like global warming now? And he says, you know, that's not climate, that's weather. You know, what is happening in this moment is weather. Climate is the overall thing, and we see that it's getting hotter every year. So yeah, there's a lot of good ones. It can be a fun thing to do. You know, if you have to take the train or the bus or even walk somewhere, you can, you know, download the app and listen on your, you know, your headphones, your earbuds or whatever. And there's so many, you know, if something's no good, you just skip it, right? And move on. So let's see if I can find this one that I like to watch. I think it's really good. So you see they have their website here. And in there, you know, in their website, you can look at, it'll talk about exactly what it is and attend, I think, a list. Okay, here's the ones that are going to be near you. If they're, I doubt they're doing it in person right now, but they would.
Excuse me. So
Yes.
when we're doing the TED Talk and we're looking at the videos and writing everything down, when we get to the very end, are we supposed to post a video that we?
No, that's not part of the assignment.
Okay.
As I said, like last semester, I did that because I think that is more interesting, and like more focused work than just doing this. But it was really hard to do that virtually.
Okay.
And since we were virtual until, you know, last week, I'd already had this in place to do this. But you can see just even on their homepage, all these different ideas or talks they have, how video games can help you get ahead in life. Compassion, can loud music damage your hearing? You know, all sorts of stuff. Climate change. This person's mother's final wish. I assume that's about euthanasia. So.
Do we pick one and then they have to answer when we answer their discussion thing at the bottom?
So we got to do. You're going to pick 10.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to watch 10 of these.
Right.
You're going to write a video. You're going to write a paragraph for each one. You're going to post it on the discussion board.
Okay.
And then you will respond to 2 of your classmates.
Okay.
So you will probably need to watch one of their videos in order to have a response that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you'll just be saying, which is why I don't like discussion boards, you know, Jim, you are a TED Talk wizard. This was really interesting. Love you. Hope we can be friends. See you over the summer. Yes?
What about if you pick the same video?
If someone else picks the same video,
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah, that's not a you thing. Okay, so let's see. This is such a terrible mouse.
Today, a baffled lady which means that when it comes to enunciation and diction, I don't even think of it because I'm articulate. So when my professor asks a question and my answer is tainted with the connotation of urbanized suggestion, there's no misdirected intention. Pay attention because I'm articulate. So when my father asks, what kind of thing is this? My articulate answer never goes amiss. I say, Father, this is the impending problem at hand, and when I'm on the block, I switch it up just because I can. So when my boy says, what's good with you, son? I said, I just fall off with them people that I've done. And sometimes in class, I might pause the intellectual sound and flow to ask, yo, why these books never be about my peoples? Yes, I have decided to treat all three of my languages as equal because I'm articulate. But who controls articulation? Because the English language is a multifaceted oration subject to indefinite transformation. Now you may think that it is ignorant to speak broken English, but I'm here to tell you that even articulate Americans sound foolish to the British. So when my professor comes on the block and says hello, I stop him and say, no, you're being inarticulate. The proper way is to say what's good. Now, you may think that's too good. That's not cool. But I'm here to tell you that even our language has rules. So when mommy mocks me and says, y'all be mad going to the store, I say, mommy, no, that sentence is not following the law. Never does the word mad go before a present participle. That's simply the principle of this English. If I had the vocal capacity, I would sing this from every mountaintop, every suburbia, and every hood. Because the only God of language is the one recorded in the Genesis of this world, saying it is good, so I may not always come before you with excellency of speech, but do not judge me by my language and assume that I'm too ignorant to teach, because I speak 3 tongues. One for each, home, school, and friends. I'm a trilingual orator. Sometimes I'm consistent with my language now to switch it up so I don't bore later. Sometimes I fight back 2 tongues while I use the other one in the classroom, and when I mistakenly mix them up, I feel crazy like I'm cooking in the bathroom. I know that I had to borrow your language because mine was stolen. You can't expect me to speak your history wholly while mine is broken. These words are spoken by someone who is simply fed up with the Eurocentric ideals of this season. And the reason I speak a composite version of your language is because mine was raped away along with my history. I speak broken English so the profuse and gashes can remind us that our current state is not a mystery. I'm so tired of the negative images that are driving my people mad. So unless you've seen it rob a bank, stop calling my hair bad. I'm so sick of this nonsensical racial disparity. So don't call it good unless your hair is known for donating to charity as much as has been raped away from our people. How can you expect me to treat their imprint on your language as anything less than equal? Let there be no confusion. Let there be no hesitation. This is not a promotion of ignorance. This is a linguistic celebration. That's why I put trilingual on my last job application. I can help to diversify. Your consumer market is all I wanted them to know. And when they call me for the interview, I'll be more than happy to show that I can say what's good, what I want, and of course, hello. Because I'm articulate.
If I should have a daughter,
Okay. So first of all, what did you think about her? Yeah, she's really good, isn't she? And what would you say the main point of her talk is?
That's her speech. How she uses her language.
She being articulate.
Just how she's using her how she's using the language between different way like people talk.
Yeah, she calls it 3 languages, but it's really just 3 different forms of English, right? Kind of 3 different dialects.
Yeah.
What is it called when you change the way you speak? Well, I mean, it can be called a couple different things, but according to what group of people you were speaking to. Code switching, we call that. And that can have negative connotations, but I don't think it necessarily has to. It's also called, do you remember what we talked about at the beginning of the semester? And in the book they talk about it as well, these are different words. We talked about rhetoric. In the book they talk about knowing your audience, right, or in some website. That if you're, however you're trying to communicate, you need to know who your audience is. And in essence, that's what she is saying as well. You know, that her folks speak a different dialect of English, so she will talk to them in that dialect. Her friends, you know how it is with your friends, you use a lot of slang, probably more swear words than you would use with other groups of people. And then, you know, at school or at work, you'll have, you know, a 3rd or a 4th sort of dialect or way of speaking. And she says in here in the video that she's not promoting ignorance. She's promoting a linguistic celebration. And I think that sometimes people will try to hold on to those sort of dialects or ways of speaking as a way to not conform, or unfortunately a way not to learn. That some people think, oh, well, I'm selling out if I use standard English at work, because that's not who I am, right? Whereas ultimately, I don't see it as such. I would see it as more of rhetoric, of knowing who one's audience is. And is speaking standard English to your boss at work in order that you might get a good reputation and get a raise any worse than using swear words with your friends so you look cool? You know, they're both using language in order to accomplish a goal, right? So I personally don't see using either one or 3 or 4, however many different sorts of types of English that you speak as selling out. I see them as rhetoric, or as using language as an effective tool. And so this is how you would want to format your paragraphs about the TED Talks. And so we've got it in MLA format, you know, last name, page number, student name, professor name, class name, date, title. And then I think the assignment asks for the presenter, which is Jamila Lilscott, the name of the talk, and this one's 3 ways to speak English. And if you've used numbers less than 10 and you're writing for me, and I've told you that you need to write them out, don't get mad. This is her title. Like, she gave that to us. So you would reproduce that in this manner. And so this actual, I think it actually, did it ask you for location?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Okay, so when I was looking at this, what the information they're asking for is almost exactly what you would use in a works cited page. So I just went ahead and did that. This is how you would form a works cited entry for a TED Talk or other videos. It's just sometimes hard to figure out what platforms and stuff, but with TED, this is the way it would be. And so this is from 2014 in New York at an event called TED Salon, as you can see. So they'll have different events throughout the year. And then this is obviously the web address to find that. And so then I summarize Ms. Little Scott's TED Talk concerns code switching or the ability to speak different forms of the same language in different situations. In Ms. Little Scott's case, she speaks one form of English at home with her parents, another form with her friends, and a third form of English when she's at school. I believe Ms. Little Scott was pursuing a PhD at the time of her talk, and I do believe that she was. I think she has it now. My favorite quote from the talk concerns hair. See how I use a colon to introduce the quotes? So unless you've seen it rob a bank, stop calling my hair bad. So don't call your hair good unless it is known for donating to charity. I like this quote because it is both silly and potent simultaneously. First of all, calling hair bad is silly because hair simply is. It does not perform actions that can be judged from a moral point of view. Yet we all know what one means when one says one is having a bad hair day. However, it seems that Willis Scott is referring to the inherent bias in speech that can refer to the hair of black people in a sensationalized or exotic manner. I believe this video is important because it attempts to destigmatize code switching, and it does so through the lens of oppression. Ultimately, Willis Scott's talk demonstrates that there is nothing wrong with speaking different ways to different groups of people. After all, that is the heart of rhetoric. And so you would do that, the next one you would give the presenter and the title, blah, 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 and then another paragraph, and then submit all that to the discussion board.
So how many paragraphs are there?
You're going to have 10 paragraphs, one for each talk.
So we just put them on the discussion board, and we don't send them to you in the Dropbox or anything like that.
Well, the discussion board is the Dropbox. So some people, let's see if I can bring up I should be able to bring this one up. Like when you go to the discussion board, right? And you can create thread. And so you can type your stuff right in here, right? Now, I think I've mentioned, I am a student as well. I don't do that because, one, it's difficult to format. And this needs to be, it's asked you to put it in MLA format. Two, I have had experiences where, and I remember this one particular class, our stuff was due at by 9 p.m. on Sunday, right? So at 8:30, I'm typing along, and I can't even remember. I try to italicize something, poof, my whole thing's gone. So I got to start over, and I've only got 30 minutes to get this in. And that happened to me twice. So I don't do that. I type up a document because that stuff saves automatically, right? And if I mess something up trying to submit it, I still got it over here. So I don't have to start from scratch, right? It's saved over there for me. And so, you just use your little paperclip guy here to attach your file to the discussion board. So in that way, if whatever happens, who knows? Power goes out, your laptop, the battery runs out in the middle of what you're doing, your professor says, I never got it. But, well, you know what? I've got it on my computer. I'll just, however I need to get that to you, you let me know, right? It's just, to me, it's a more safe way to conduct business and not have to redo work, which, man, that sucks. So, not that anyone has to do it that way. I have just found from my own experience that it works pretty good. Okay, so any other questions about the TED Talk assignment? And the example is in the module. Everything you need should be there. All right, any questions about that? So last time we talked about subject-verb agreement. So I thought we would do some more work on that, especially as I was grading work for this class today. I'm going to take about 10 minutes and choose the best verb, or the correct one. Not only is it best, but correct. y'all still working, or have you finished? Finished? Okay, would you like to do number 1 for us?
The focus of the interviews were to hire a replacement for Doug. I chose verb.
Okay, so that's a tricky one.
Yeah, it was.
So, you know, we talked about last week, especially if you grew up and learned English as your first language, or, you know, whatever language you grew up learning as your first language, you're going to do a lot of it just by sound. This sounds right or it doesn't. So in this sentence, we have focus is the subject of that sentence. So that's the noun that's going to be doing the work. And then to hire is, were to hire will be the verb phrase. So in this sentence, we have the prepositional phrase of the interviews in between the subject and the verb. And so we have a singular subject, the focus. So even if you didn't know if focus was a singular or a plural word, it's got the word the in front of it, and if you are the thing, then you're the only one, right? I'm going to eat the apple, not any apple. I'm going to eat that one right there, you know? So, so focus is going to take a singular verb, which is going to be was. But because the word interviews is right before the verb and ends in an S, you think, or you might think, oh, that's going to take a plural verb. It's going to sound right. So that's how one can get thrown off there. So that takes was. Would you like to do number 2 for us?
Sure. Diabetes affects many people around the world. I chose affects.
That's exactly right. So, diabetes it's a strange construction because it ends in an S, but you want to use the word affects. Because even though it sounds like it might be a plural word, because it ends in an S, it is a singular word, and so it takes the singular verb affects. What about number 3?
Education is part of the key to success.
Is, that is correct. Education is. Education is a singular noun, subject, so we use is. What about number 4?
No one was unable to take me to my job interview. I want to say was, but.
That is correct. No one was available. So that's kind of weird. It takes a plural verb because out of the whole group, whatever the group is, it could be every human on the planet Earth, but out of that, no one was available. What about number 5?
One writes a letter every day to prove their love, writes.
That is correct. So the singular noun one takes the singular verb writes. Number 6.
The survey is part of language was daily and allow students to gain intelligence from the presentation. So surveys are
Correct.
and language to collect data and allow students.
Yeah, allow, right? No S. Yep, so surveys are, because surveys is plural, and allow, because surveys is plural. Okay, good job. How about number 7?
The coach as well as the players are excited for the playoffs. I chose are.
Or, see, you're getting all the tricky ones.
Yeah.
This is almost exactly like number 1 that you had before.
Yeah.
So we see the phrase as well as the players is in commas. So that's telling us that that phrase is not integral not necessary for the meaning of the sentence. You know, that could say almost anything in there, right? The coach as well as his wife, the coach and nobody else. So it is not the subject of the sentence. It's not doing the work there. Coach is doing the work, and coach is singular, so it would be is. But because the plural noun players is right next to that verb, it can trick your ear into thinking you need to use the plural verb are. So that is, you know, one of the reasons why at the beginning of the semester we talk about parts of speeches and a little bit about sentence. Is so if you know, oh, okay, this phrase is in commas, like you won't have the subject be in there. So we will not have subject and verb separated by a single comma, because they got to work together. They're doing this thing, right? The subject and the verb, that's what's going on. They have to work together. Now, we can put a phrase in there because then there's two commas. And so these two things are still working together, and the stuff in between the commas kind of goes away, like it's not necessary. So if you know that, oh, when I have two commas like this is in a positive or something that's not necessary to the meaning of the sentence, or as was it the first sentence? Yeah, in the first sentence, oh, I know that of is a preposition, and so I've got of the interviews. I know that even though interview is a noun, it can't be the subject of the sentence because it's the object of that preposition. It's the noun in this prepositional phrase. So it can't be the subject of the sentence. Okay, number 8.
The president or the acting president approves the final legislation before signing it. I said approves.
Exactly right. And that would be because of the word or. We're only talking about one of those. It's either the president or the acting president. If the sentence said and, then you would use approve because you would have more than one. Does it work with that? Number 9.
Each of the participants, please, are willing to do the code.
Okay, so that's another, just like the previous ones. So what kind of phrase is of the participants? We just talked about it in of the interviews. It's a prepositional phrase. Of is a preposition, so participants cannot be the subject of that sentence. So each is the subject of the sentence, and each is singular. You talk about each of these. And so you're going to use a singular verb is. But because we have the object of the prepositional phrase, the noun participants, right next to the verb, it tricks your ear. And you want to use the word are because it sounds right. And what about number 10?
Receipts from the sale goes to support the disadvantaged population in the community. I'm going to say go.
It is go. That is exactly right. So that time, you did not allow the prepositional phrase from the sale to trick you into affecting your choice for the verb. Good job. Okay. Any questions about those? There can be a tendency too. I don't think anyone in here does this, but I'm trying to think of a good example. Um, well, I'm not going to worry about that right now. But we will talk about pronouns. So if you can circle the pronoun, and then we will talk, is there some on the back too? We will talk about why these sentences are not necessarily clear. start for us with number one? What is the pronoun in that sentence? It is, no, those are the nouns. So a pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun. Team is another noun. So pronouns are going to be things like he, she, you, it, they, them. They, exactly right. And so, just generally speaking, when you have a pronoun, he, she, it, they, them, it's taking the place of a noun. And in order for your writing to be clear, it needs to be clear what noun your pronoun is taking the place of. So, in this first sentence, what is not clear about this? And one of the difficult things is when you are writing, you know what you mean, right? So it can be easy to overlook these sorts of things because you know exactly what you mean, you're writing. That's why if you have time, it's often a good strategy to finish your writing, say a day early, and then you can look at it and be like, whoa, because you're coming to it cold, so to speak. You haven't been thinking about it, and so mistakes like that are going to be more apparent. So number one, what noun, or nouns, I guess, since it's a plural pronoun, what nouns is they referring to? You said members, you said Dave and Pat. Yeah, that's the problem. It's not clear. Who was scared? Were Dave and Pat scared? Or were the team members scared? So it's not, there's no way to know for certain with the way that sentence is written. Now, whoever wrote it knew what they meant, but we can't tell for sure by the way this is written. Dave and Pat could be scared because they're joining a new team, or the team members could be scared because, you know, maybe Dave and Pat are terrible players. Maybe they're great players. Maybe they're troublemakers. Okay, what about number two? What's the pronoun, first of all? Well, that is a type of pronoun, but it's an adjective in this case because it's telling us whose coffee cup. Like which coffee cup. So there's a pronoun in the sentence that's working as a noun. What about the second part of the sentence? That's a verb. It, exactly right. So what noun is it referring to? Maybe. Maybe the table. That's the problem. Is when Alice dropped her coffee cup onto the glass table, either the cup or the table broke. It's a singular pronoun, so we're assuming it's only one. But we're not sure which one. That's the problem. So we could rewrite that sentence and say, Alice broke the coffee table or broke the glass coffee table when she dropped her coffee mug onto it. Or when Alice dropped her coffee mug onto the glass table, the tabletop broke. Something like that. So it's more clear what we're talking about. What about number three?
Grace worked nights in an internship at Brookwood Stables last summer. That will become her career. I chose Brookwood Stables and her.
Well, Brookwood Stables is a noun. It's an object telling where this happened. And her is, and that is a pronoun, but in this case it's acting like an adjective telling us which career. What's the noun in the second part of that sentence? Or what is the subject? What is doing the becoming?
Career? Will become? You said that last one after that
Yep.
will become?
Her and career are both modifying, or actually they're objects, indirect objects telling you, they're subject objects telling you what something will be or become. So how about that?
Yeah.
So that is acting as the noun, as the subject in the second half of that sentence. But what is that referring to? So it could be referring to nights, that working nights will become Grace's career. It could be referring to an internship, that an internship will become her career. Or it could be working at Brookwood Stables, that will become her career. I guess technically it could be summer as well. Maybe summer will become her career. Okay, what about number 4?
They should increase funding for mental health programs. They,
That's exactly right. And why is that not clear?
who's they?
Right. So in this case, we have nothing for they to take the place of. This is a mistake that we tend to make when we're writing a longer paragraph. And frankly, we get tired. And a lot of these we get tired. It's just easier to say, when Alice dropped her coffee cup onto the table, it broke, rather than to say specifically what broke. So if we're writing a paper about local governments should quit buying cops freaking tanks and Hummers and RVs so they can set up like SWAT tactical operations and battering rams and bazookas and cattle prods, and they should take it. It's the idea of them, they. And so money should be reallocated for mental health programs. So we've, written a whole paragraph or a whole paper about this. We're tired of repeating ourselves. And so I mentioned, either a local municipality in general, or I said the city of Clarkston earlier in the paragraph, and I don't want to say that again. It's more work. It's easier to just say they, right? But if that was a few sentences ago, there's a lot of nouns between the city of Clarkston and this pronoun they that I'm using, and it's not going to be clear to what they is referring. Okay, what about number 5?
Okay, Monica don't have the money part in the business. We have no idea who's there. So I chose he and he.
Correct. And who is he and he referring to? We don't know exactly. Now, it's a pretty good bet that the first he refers to Mike, because he's the subject of the sentence. Mike is the one doing the joining. But the second he, we don't know if Mike didn't think he was going to fail, as in Mike, or if Mike didn't think Bob was going to fail. It's just not clear.
With a camera in one hand and a phone in the other, I like snap pictures with it as the runner across the plate. See it?
Yes. And what is not clear about it?
We did what was it with who had the phone in one hand and the camera in the other?
Yeah, this is a modern sentence, because nowadays the phone can take pictures and the camera can take pictures. We don't know which one she used.
Yeah.
What about number 7?
Since Lolly won first place and Katie won second place, the principal honored her with a scholarship.
Correct. And it's not clear because,
Which one?
yeah, this is a terrible sentence, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's no way to write on International Women's Day, is to shortchange either Lolly or Katie. That's not cool. Not to mention, they came in first and second. So they beat out all the men for first and second place. All right, what about number 8?
Mike told me that in the latest 2 years, Coach Wells expressed their strongest goal of promoting him to start him.
Exactly right. And why is that not clear?
He
Yeah, we don't know who's getting promoted, whether it's Mike or Dave. I'm assuming Coach Wells wouldn't talk about promoting himself. So yeah, that's no good. We don't know who's going to start. How about number 9?
Many experts advocate changing how students are taught to write, theorizing that they will have more success. I would say they.
Exactly right.
And then you don't know who's gonna have more success.
Right.
That's whether the.
I mean, we hope
Yeah.
that the idea of this sentence is that students are going to have more success. But maybe we've got some very selfish experts, and they're worried about their own success. They don't really care about the students. What about number 10?
Dave told Bob that Mary would have nothing to do with him.
Correct. And why is that not clear?
Why would he have nothing to do with him?
Yeah, we don't know which one. It could be that Dave was telling his friend Bob, man, I can't get married to have anything to do with me anymore. Or it could be that Dave was like, yo, you got to change this up because that girl has no interest in you whatsoever, Bob. You know, it's not working. You need to change your game up or change your target up because it ain't happening. Okay. Any questions about that? So those are 2 common mistakes I see in the writing for this class. I don't think it'll be as much when I get to grading the actual letters because those are more specifically set out. It's more in the homework, the grammar homework and communication homework and part of speech homework that I have been seeing those. But those are going to be an integral part of writing. Subject-verb agreement and pronoun and pronoun antecedent agreement is what that is specifically. And I know it's not fun, and that sometimes it's impossible to finish a draft a little bit early and give yourself time to read over it. But it really is, for the vast majority of people, it's very helpful to do so because you can come to it with a clear mind and notice things like that. It's possible to leave, put adjectives and things in the wrong place too, and it just makes things harder to understand. All right, any questions?
I would like to know if you want to use my claim letter. I sent it to you.
Did you?
I did. Even though I had worked on it. Got some help with it.
Well, definitely. Let me see. I don't remember seeing it, but let me.
You said send it to your email, right?
I did.
Okay.
Okay. What's your last name?
McCullough.
M-A-C?
MCCALLA.
All right. Let's see here. Oh, wow. I don't know how I didn't see that. Sure enough. Okay. Let's absolutely do that. I'm sorry. I asked before you got here.
I thought I heard the butt end of it. You were saying you do anybody want to share.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. I was telling them that the other class is all about doing that. In fact, that was like all we did. But this class didn't seem to be interested in it. Okay. Click here. Maybe, maybe not. No, that did not seem to be helpful, did it? All right, let's see here. There we go. Okay. And let me see, it would probably be helpful If I open the directions over here. Okay. All right, these look pretty good to me now, and I believe that unfortunately in some of the resources that we have provided with you, it has showed you two different ways. But I think, and you know what, things sort of change up. But technically, your name and address should be over here. Leave the date here. And then you've got Mr. Phillips and his information there. Dear Mr. Phillips, ordered 2 NFL jerseys from the NFLshop.com on January 27, 2021. My invoice for this order is number 17956. I received an email confirmation stating they received the order. Well, that's what we were just talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's they? Because, you know, I'm thinking it's probably NFLshop.com or someone who works there or their, you know, receiving department. But in between that, we've got what? We've got January, we've got invoice, we've got email, actually we've got confirmation. So 3 or 4 nouns in between what you're referring to and the pronoun. Stating they received the order and it will be shipped out on time. Once again, what's it referring to? It's referring to order, yes, receive the order, and it will be shipped
So
on
I
time.
changed it to,
I would say I received an email confirmation of my order, or my order was confirmed. I received an email confirming the order and shipping date is probably what I would do. And then you're just making this a little more specific, like more succinct. You're getting rid of some extra words. I ordered a woman's Atlanta Falcons red game jersey medium and a men's. So I would, for consistency's sake, I would either, and I don't think it really matters, I would actually probably take it from the catalog, but you got woman's here and men's there. I would just try to be consistent and say one or the other, either woman and man or women and men. Like I said, I don't think it doesn't really matter grammatically. It's just going to look better, basically. And men's XL Nike Olive Salute to Service Limited jersey. I paid the $9 for expedited shipping, which brought my total to $301.10, ensuring the jerseys would arrive by Super Bowl Sunday, February 2nd, 2021. Okay, so now we're getting long here. Let's see here. I would probably, so you've got here, I ordered these jerseys, right? I would put a comma here, and I paid, and then put a period after 301.10.
and put a period up.
And then I would put this should have insured the jerseys would arrive. And then instead of a semicolon, I would say comma. However, and what's wrong with this pronoun it? What is it referring to?
Yeah.
It's referring to 2 jerseys, and it's singular. So you need to have they. So, comma, however, they did not arrive until February 4th, 2021. I was very disappointed to see that the package was damaged and the wrong size. Instead of wrong size was sent for the men's jersey, the wrong size men's jersey was sent. And once again, it's going to be just a little bit more clear. And as we talked about last time, because English doesn't do many inflections, word order is important. So that's going to be more clear with the order I suggested. New paragraph, I would like for you to resend. I don't even think resend, because specifically to resend, they'd have to get back what you got and resend it to you. So I would like for you to send the correct size, or you could even say correct jersey. I would like for you to send the correct size or refund my entire order. Once again, we're just cutting out a lot of extra stuff. I would like for you to resend the correct jersey or refund my entire order. I do not expect to be responsible for shipping costs. I would get rid of paying, because I think that's just, it's obvious. I would appreciate a quick response, and you would need a comma here. So even though there isn't a noun or a pronoun here as a subject, it's what they call an elliptical one, which means it's pretend. It's when you use ellipses, it tells that it's taking the place of something. So what this sentence really says is, and I thank you. I mean, nobody else would be thanking them. You're the one writing the letter. But so because that's sort of understood, when I was young, that's what they called it. It's an understood I. You use a comma there because you're getting into another independent clause. And to join independent clauses, you need a comma and a fanboy conjunction. So comma, and I thank you. I wouldn't even say for the effort of looking at this. I just say I would, and I thank you for taking care of this, or for exploring it. And I wouldn't even probably use this matter. And I thank you for resolving my problem. That you're not exactly sure how they're going to resolve it. Let's look at the directions and make sure we got the jerseys right, we got the money right. And I actually have 2020, which I would not count off for because I didn't change it from when I used this last spring. And the first time I used this was before the Falcons-Patriots Super Bowl. So I just do it every year to remind myself of the heartbreak of blowing the biggest lead in the history of the Super Bowl. And my daughter, it was her birthday, and she was turning 11, and Julio Jones was her favorite player, number 11, and she knew they were going to win. And I kept saying, don't get excited. And then I said, nobody's ever blown a lead this big. Bam. Jinxed it, right? Okay, any other questions about that? Were you able to get that? And if we keep doing this, I would like y'all, I will get y'all more involved in the workshopping.
See, when I went to tutoring,
Yes.
we didn't think to, I guess, to describe the it. What is the it?
Right.
And stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it's just,
So my last paragraph is okay to be just a little short, something like I would like you to send the correct size that I ordered.
It is. So the main thing with a paragraph is, and I can't remember if it was this class or the other one last week that we talked about, if you only have one sentence, you don't want really a one sentence paragraph. That kind of like, why do you have a paragraph with one sentence? That you should be able to fit that in somewhere. So like in this case, if all we had was, I would appreciate a quick response and thank you for resolving my problem, I would just tack it on the end of this. But it's fine here. You're going to have 3 sentences, even if they're shorter, so that's going to be fine. Yeah, but if you had 1 sentence, I would do my best to combine it with something else. Either move it with here or split this up into two other paragraphs. There will be, if you end up in a job where you're doing a lot of business writing, life is long, hopefully, right? You will have a time where you will have to use a 1-sentence paragraph, but you want to do your best to avoid it.
And I'll make the changes and
Cool.
submit it.
Well, thanks for bringing that. And I'm sorry I kept y'all 4.5 minutes over.
That was me.
I think I owe the other class 2 minutes. I owe y'all 4.5. I thought we were actually going to finish early, but no, I'd rather that y'all get what you need.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, 'cause I don't wanna make that out of a C or D. I didn't even mention.
Right, like I don't think that would have been a C or a D. The format, I can't remember. The rubric is basically like format. Does it have the things I told you to put in there?
Yeah, I did. I
And
just added a few things.
yeah, only one part of it's grammar. So, and those are things. I probably have studied writing more than the people in the Student Success Center. So little things like the it just, pop out to me. And that's been a thing I've been thinking about a lot this semester is pronouns and how we use them. And you know what? I tend to overuse the word it myself. One of my professors was like, you have to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Don't tell me what you mean. Don't say it. What do you mean by it? And I do it for the same reasons. I don't want to write that, the poetic influence of a Renaissance woman upon a modern African American poet is hard to gather, so I say it, right? Because that's a lot to type. Okay, well, thanks for coming, and I hope you all have a good rest of the day.
You too.
Thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. And also, if you, as you finish up those letters and start thinking about the career thing, if you want to email your PowerPoints, and we can look at those in class next Monday. Especially, there's only be 3 people. We could do y'all's PowerPoints the whole time, Thank y'all.
So we're going to do next after that.